Hey everyone, and welcome to the WorldCupNow.com's coverage of the Barclays Premier League, and in particular their Fantasy League. And I am your host, as always, Sean McConnell, and we are getting back into the videos this week. I am going to keep it a little short, kind of go back to the way I started it. No fancy graphics, and just kind of off the cuff, on the fly type coverage, and give you some tips. So, getting into it for game week 12. Normally in my players to watch, I always pick 3 players and we go through, but this is just a kind of like hypothetical situation because I noticed this today and yesterday. And if you look at all the forwards, particularly in the top 10, maybe even top 20, you have a lot of potential injuries here. You have Van Persie, Dembaba, Defoe, Fletcher, Rooney. So it raises the question, what do you do? What happens when there's injuries not only on your team, but on guys that you would think you might want to get if you had an injury? Now, keep in mind, these are only small injuries. I have a feeling that each and every one of these players will be playing. However, when we get into the colder months, into the winter months, into the kind of the grit of the season, game week 15 to 18, where it's just kind of nitty gritty and you're just really in the thick of the season. That's when injuries start to actually come about and they can hurt you. You also get into suspensions too. If you've got yellow cards and they've add up and you get a suspension, you got to keep an eye out for that too, and that's when you want to have a good bench. So let's say, for instance, that these guys were all injured. Right now, typically, what I would do is swap out value for value. So in that way, when they come back from injury, you're not going to be losing that many points, and your bank value of your team is going to be relatively the same. So say Van Persie was out, I would swap him for probably Suarez, who's at a 10 right now, and you get the 3.7 in the bank. If Ba was out at 3.8, I'd probably swap him out for a Berbatov. Always go one lower value in terms of player cost. That way you can keep it in the bank and you can go from there. So again, that is an idea that you want to keep going forward. Keep an eye out for yellow cards, and also injuries too. Small injuries can become larger later on in the season. So keep that in mind. Moving into my fixtures, who I think is going to win. You can see here on my top bar, I'll go to the first one though. I'm going to be deciding between West Ham and Stoke City. Now, the last time that these guys played, I think, was March 2011, way back then in the season. But I know typically West Ham normally wins these fixtures. West Ham's kind of had Stoke's number for a little while. And I'll show you something, because you can actually see this. Now, they're both coming off of 1-0 wins, which is going to be they counteract one of another, and it doesn't really bear in mind what's going to be coming up in this thing. But if you click on past meetings, typically this works well, and I'll show you in my next fixture. Looking at past fixtures between the two. However, you can see that West Ham won 3-0 last time, but they had the likes of Dembaba on their team. It was a completely different team, so it has no bearing whatsoever, and that's why it'll come back, and I'll show you where it'll come into in my next fixture. But one thing I like to point out is that you do get to see how the teams play at one another's stadiums. You can see that they've played 3 games at Upton Park, and West Ham has won 2 and Stoke has won 1. So West Ham has the home field advantage in this coming fixture. But not only that, when they do have the home advantage, they typically win. And you can see that they've split their games at Britannia Stadium 1 apiece through all of it. So that's something that you want to consider. However, in this one, I think with West Ham is probably going to take this one. only because they have home field advantage and they have actually been playing very, very well. So I have a feeling that when this fixture is reversed and West Ham is at Stoke, I think Stoke will take that game. So I think they're going to split the series this season. But for that to happen, West Ham is going to have to take this game and win it. So moving on to my second fixture, Arsenal and Tottenham. Both haven't won in a couple matches, I think. Let's just check. Lost and a draw and lost. Yeah. So both of these teams are kind of looking to get back into the win column. Definitely going to give the home field advantage to Arsenal. But like I mentioned 2 seconds ago, checking their previous fixtures is always something you want to do. And you can see that in the last fixture back in February of last year, Arsenal spanked Tottenham. But again, two different teams. Although the only difference is they don't have Van Persie. So but again, also Tottenham is a different team too. So I try not to keep that in mind. But what I do like to look at is their past meetings. You can see Tottenham has only won once in their past 5 meetings at the Emirates. So it's fairly indicative of what's going to be coming up this game. I have a feeling probably Arsenal is going to take this. So I'm going to go with Arsenal for this fixture. So again, short and sweet, no graphics, a little bit quicker this week. But again, I always welcome you to come over to the website. I always welcome your comments. We're always, putting up each game week a video and also the blog post here that you can see with my players, why I've chosen them, why you should get them and consider them. And again, I always appreciate your compliments and your comments and your emails. Again, so as always, have a great game week and best of luck, and we'll see you next Thursday.